Progress Report 16, Part 2. August 26th. Letter to Professor Niemer. Copy. Dear Professor Niemer, under separate cover, I am sending you a copy of my full report entitled The Algernon-Gordon Effect, a study of structure and function of increased intelligence, which may be published if you see fit. As you know, my experiments are completed. I have included in my report all of my formulas, as well as mathematical analyses of the data in the appendix. Of course, these should be verified. The results are clear. The more sensational aspects of my rapid climb cannot obscure the facts. The surgery and injection techniques developed by you and Dr. Strauss must be viewed as having little or no practical applicability at the present time to the increase of human intelligence. Reviewing the data on Algernon, although he is still in his physical youth, he has regressed mentally, motor activity impaired, general reduction of glandular functioning, accelerated loss of coordination, and strong indications of progressive amnesia. As I show in my report, these and other physical and mental deterioration syndromes can be predicted with statistically significant results by the application of my new formula. Although the surgical stimulus to which we were both subjected resulted in an intensification and acceleration of all mental processes, the flaw, which I have taken the liberty of calling the Algernon-Gordon effect, is the logical extension of the entire intelligence speed-up. The hypothesis here proved may be described most simply in the following terms. Artificially induced intelligence deteriorates at a rate of time directly proportional to the quantity of the increase. As long as I am able to write, I will continue to put down my thoughts and ideas in these progress reports. It is one of my few solitary pleasures and is certainly necessary to the completion of this research. However, by all indications, my own mental deterioration will be quite rapid. I have checked and rechecked my data a dozen times in hope of finding an error, but I am sorry to say the results must stand. Yet I am grateful for the little bit that I here add to the knowledge of the function of the human mind and of the laws governing the artificial increase of human intelligence. The other night, Dr. Strauss was saying that an experimental failure, the disproving of a theory, was as important to the advancement of learning as a success would be. I know now that this is true. I am sorry, however, that my own contribution to the field must rest upon the ashes of the work of this staff, and especially those who have done so much for me. Yours truly, Charles Gordon, enclosed report copy, Dr. Strauss, the Wellberg Foundation. September 1st. I must not panic. Soon there will be signs of emotional instability and forgetfulness, the first symptoms of the burnout. Will I recognize these in myself? All I can do now is keep recording my mental state as objectively as possible, remembering that this psychological journal will be the first of its kind and possibly the last. This morning, Niemer had Bert take my report and the statistical data down to Halston University to have some of the top men in the field verify my results and the application of my formulas. All last week, they had Bert going over my experiments and methodological charts. I shouldn't really be annoyed by their precautions. After all, I'm just a Charlie come lately, and it is difficult for Niemer to accept the fact that my work might be beyond him. He had come to believe in the myth of his own authority, and after all, I am an outsider. I don't really care anymore what he thinks, or what any of them think, for that matter. There isn't time. The work is done, the data is in, and all that remains is to see whether I have accurately projected the curve on the Algernon figures as a prediction of what will happen to me. Alice cried when I told her the news. Then she ran out. I've got to impress on her that there is no reason for her to feel guilty about this. September 2nd. Nothing definite yet. I move in a silence of clear white light. Everything around me is waiting. I dream of being alone on the top of a mountain, surveying the land around me, greens and yellows, and the sun directly above, pressing my shadow into a tight ball around my legs. As the sun drops into the afternoon sky, the shadow undrapes itself and stretches out toward the horizon, long and thin, and far behind me. I want to say here again what I've said already to Dr. Strauss. No one is in any way to blame for what has happened. This experiment was carefully prepared, extensively tested on animals, and statistically validated. When they decided to use me as the first human test, they were reasonably certain that there was no physical danger involved. There was no way to foresee the psychological pitfalls. I don't want anyone to suffer because of what happens to me. The only question now is, how much can I hang on to? September 15th. Niemer says my results have been confirmed. It means that the flaw is central and brings the entire hypothesis into question. Someday there might be a way to overcome this problem, but that time is not yet. I have recommended that no further tests be made on human beings until these things are clarified by additional research on animals. It is my own feeling that the most successful line of research will be that taken by men studying enzyme imbalances. As with so many other things, time is the key factor. Speed in discovering the deficiency and speed in administering hormonal substitutes. I would like to help in that area of research and on the search for radioisotopes that may be used in local cortical control, but I know now that I don't have the time. September 17th. Becoming absent-minded. Put things away on my desk or in the drawers of the lab tables, and when I can't find them, I lose my temper and flare up at everyone. First signs? Algernon died 2 days ago. I found him at 4:30 in the morning when I came back to the lab after wandering around down at the waterfront, on his side, stretched out in the corner of his cage, as if he were running in his sleep. Dissection shows that my predictions were right. Compared to the normal brain, Algernon's had decreased in weight, and there was a general smoothing out of the cerebral convolutions, as well as deepening and broadening of brain fissures. It's frightening to think that the same thing might be happening to me right now. Seeing it happen to Algernon makes it real. For the first time, I'm afraid of the future. I put Algernon's body into a small metal container and took him home with me. I wasn't going to let them dump him into the incinerator. It's foolish and sentimental, but late last night I buried him in the backyard. I wept as I put a bunch of wildflowers on the grave. September 21st. I'm going to Mark Street to visit my mother tomorrow. A dream last night triggered off a sequence of memories, lit up a whole slice of the past, and the important thing is to get it down on paper quickly before I forget it, because I seem to forget things sooner now. It has to do with my mother, and now, more than ever, I want to understand her, to know what she was like and why she acted the way she did. I mustn't hate her. I've got to come to terms with her before I see her so that I won't act harshly or foolishly. September 27. I should have written this down right away because it's important to make this record complete. I went to see Rose 3 days ago. Finally, I forced myself to borrow Bert's car again. I was afraid, and yet I knew I had to go. At first, when I got to Mark Street, I thought I had made a mistake. It wasn't the way I remembered it at all. It was a filthy street, vacant lots where many of the houses had been torn down. On the sidewalk, a discarded refrigerator with its face ripped off, and on the curb, an old mattress with wire intestines hanging out of its belly. Some houses had boarded up windows, and others looked more like patched up shanties than homes. I parked the car a block away from the house and walked. There were no children playing on Mark Street, not at all like the mental picture I had brought with me of children everywhere, and Charlie watching them through the front window. Strange that most of my memories of the street are framed by the window, with me always inside watching the children play. And now there were only old people standing in the shade of tired porches. As I approached the house, I had a second shock. My mother was on the front stoop, in an old brown sweater, washing the ground floor windows from the outside, even though it was cold and windy, always working to show the neighbors what a good wife and mother she was. The most important thing had always been what other people thought, appearances before herself or her family, and righteous about it. Time and again, Matt had insisted that what others thought about you wasn't the only thing in life. But it did no good. Norma had to dress well. The house had to have fine furniture. Charlie had to be kept inside so that other people wouldn't know anything was wrong. At the gate, I paused to watch as she straightened up to catch her breath. Seeing her face made me tremble, but it was not the face I had struggled so hard to recall. Her hair had become white and streaked with iron, and the flesh of her thin cheeks was wrinkled. Perspiration made her forehead glisten. She caught sight of me and stared back. I wanted to look away, to turn back down the street, but I couldn't, not after having come so far. I would just ask directions, pretending I was lost in a strange neighborhood. Seeing her had been enough, but all I did was stand there, waiting for her to do something first. And all she did was stand there and look at me. Do you want something? Her voice, hoarse, was an unmistakable echo down the corridors of memory. I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. My mouth worked, I know, and I struggled to speak to her, to get something out, because in that moment I could see recognition in her eyes. This was not at all the way I wanted her to see me. Not standing there in front of her, dumbly, unable to make myself understood. But my tongue kept getting in the way, like a huge obstruction, and my mouth was dry. Finally, something came out. Not what I had intended. I had planned something soothing and encouraging to take control of the situation and wipe out all the past and pain with a few words. But all that came out of my cracked throat was, "Ma." With all the things I had learned in all the languages I had mastered, all I could say to her, standing on the porch staring at me, was, "Ma," like a dry-mouthed lamb at the udder. She wiped her forehead with the back of her arm and frowned at me, as if she could not see me clearly. I stepped forward, past the gate to the walk, and then toward the step. She drew back. At first, I wasn't sure whether or not she really recognized me, but then she gasped, "Charlie!" She didn't scream it or whisper it. She just gasped it, as one might do coming out of a dream. "Ma," I started up the steps. "It's me." My movement startled her, and she stepped backwards, kicking over the bucket of soapy water, and the dirty suds rushed down the steps. "What are you doing here?" "I just wanted to see you, talk to you." Because my tongue kept getting in the way, my voice came out of my throat differently, with a thick, whining tone, as I might have spoken a long time ago. "Don't go away," I begged. "Don't run away from me." But she had gone inside the vestibule and locked the door. A moment later, I could see her peering at me from behind the sheer white curtain of the door window, her eyes terrified. Behind the window, her lip moved soundlessly. "Go away. Leave me alone." Why? Who was she to deny me this? By what right did she turn away from me? "Let me in. I want to talk to you. Let me in." I banged on the door against the glass so hard it cracked, and the crack spread a web that caught my skin for a moment and held it fast. She must have thought I was out of my mind and had come to harm her. She let go of the outer door and fled down the hallway that led to the apartment. I pushed again. The hook gave way and, unprepared for the sudden yielding, I fell into the vestibule, off balance. My hand was bleeding from the glass I had broken, and not knowing what else to do, I put my hand into my pocket to prevent the blood from staining her freshly scrubbed linoleum. I started in past the stairs I had seen so often in my nightmares. I had often been pursued up that long, narrow staircase by demons who grabbed at my legs and pulled me down into the cellar below, while I tried to scream without a voice, strangling on my tongue and gagging in silence, like the silent boys at Warren. The people who lived on the second floor, our landlord and landlady, the Myers, had always been kind to me. They gave me sweets and let me come to sit in their kitchen and play with their dog. I wanted to see them, but without being told, I knew they were gone and dead and that strangers lived upstairs. That path was now closed to me forever. At the end of the hallway, the door through which Rhoda had fled was locked, and for a moment I stood undecided. "Open the door." The answer was a high-pitched yapping of a small dog. It took me by surprise. "All right," I said. "I don't intend to hurt you or anything, but I've come a long way and I'm not leaving without talking to you. If you don't open the door, I'm going to break it down." I heard her saying, "Shh, Nappy, here, into the bedroom you go." A moment later, I heard the click of the lock. The door opened and she stood there staring at me. "Ma," I whispered, "I'm not going to do anything." I just want to talk to you. You've got to understand I'm not the same as I was. I've changed. I'm normal now. Don't you understand? I'm not retarded anymore. I'm not a moron. I'm just like anyone else. I'm normal, just like you and Matt and Norma. I tried to keep talking, babbling so she wouldn't close the door. I tried to tell her the whole thing all at once. They changed me, performed an operation on me, and made me different, the way you always wanted me to be. Don't you read about it in the newspapers? A new scientific experiment that changes your capacity for intelligence, and I'm the first one they tried it on. Can't you understand? Why are you looking at me that way? I'm smart now, smarter than Norma, or Uncle Herman, or Matt. I know things even college professors don't know. Talk to me. You can be proud of me now and tell all the neighbors. You don't have to hide me in the cellar when the company comes. Just talk to me. Tell me about things the way it was when I was a little boy. That's all I want. I won't hurt you. I don't hate you. But I've got to know about myself, to understand myself before it's too late. Don't you see? I can't be a complete person unless I can understand myself, and you're the only one in the world who can help me now. Let me come in and sit down for a little while. It was the way I spoke rather than what I said that hypnotized her. She stood there in the doorway and stared at me. Without thinking, I pulled my bloody hand out of my pocket and clenched it in my pleading. When she saw it, her expression softened. You hurt yourself. She didn't necessarily feel sorry for me. It was the sort of thing she might have felt for a dog that had torn its paw or a cat that had been gashed in a fight. It wasn't because I was her Charlie, but in spite of it. Come in and wash it. I've got some bandages and iodine. I followed her to the cracked sink and the corrugated drain board at which she had so often washed my face and hands after I came in from the backyard, or when I was ready to eat or go to sleep. She watched me roll up my sleeves. You shouldn't have broken the window. The landlord's going to be sore, and I don't have enough money to pay for it. Then, as if impatient with the way I was doing it, she took the soap from me and washed my hand. As she did it, she concentrated so hard that I kept silent, afraid of breaking the spell. Occasionally, she clucked her tongue or sighed, Charlie, Charlie, always getting yourself into a mess. When are you going to learn to take care of yourself? She was back 25 years earlier when I was her little Charlie, and she was willing to fight for my place in the world. When the blood was washed off and she had dried my hands with paper toweling, she looked up into my face and her eyes went round with frights. Oh my God, she gasped and backed away. I started talking again, softly, persuasively, to convince her that nothing was wrong and I meant no harm. But as I spoke, I could tell her mind was wandering. She looked around vaguely, put her hand to her mouth, and groaned as she looked at me again. The house is such a mess, she said. I wasn't expecting company. Look at those windows and that woodwork over there. That's all right, Ma. Don't worry about it. I've got to wax those floors again. It's got to be clean. She noticed some finger marks on the door, and taking up her wash rag, she scrubbed them away. When she looked up and saw me watching her, she frowned. Have you come about the electric bill? Before I could say no, she wagged her finger, scolding. I intend to send a check out the first of the month, but my husband is out of town on business. I told them they don't have to worry about money because my daughter gets paid this week and we'll be able to take care of all our bills. So there's no need bothering me for money. Is she your only child? Don't you have any other children? She started, and then her eyes looked far away. I had a boy, so brilliant that all the other mothers were jealous of him, and they put the evil eye on him. They called it the IQ, but it was the evil IQ. He would have been a great man if not for that. He was really very bright, exceptional, they said. He could have been a genius. She picked up a scrub brush. Excuse me now, I've got to get things ready. My daughter has a young man coming for dinner, and I've got to get this place clean. She got down on her knees and started to scrub the already shining floor. She didn't look up again. She was muttering to herself now, and I sat down at the kitchen table. I would wait until she came out of it, until she recognized me and understood who I was. I couldn't leave until she knew that I was her Charlie. Somebody had to understand. She had started humming sadly to herself, but she stopped, her rag poised midway between the bucket and the floor, as if suddenly aware of my presence behind her. She turned, her face tired and her eyes glistening, and cocked her head. How could it be? I don't understand. They told me you could never be changed. They performed an operation on me, and that changed me. I'm famous now. They've heard of me all over the world. I'm intelligent now, Mom. I can read and write, and I can... Thank God, she whispered. My prayers, all these years I thought he didn't hear me, that he was listening all the time, just waiting his own good time to do his will. She wiped her face in her apron, and when I put my arm around her, she wept freely on my shoulder. All the pain was washed away, and I was glad I had come. I've got to tell everyone, she said, smiling. All those teachers at the school. Oh, wait till you see their faces when I tell them. And the neighbors, and Uncle Herman. I've got to tell Uncle Herman. He'll be so pleased. And wait until your father comes home. And your sister. Oh, she'll be so happy to see you. You have no idea. She hugged me, talking excitedly, making plans for the new life we were going to have together. I hadn't the heart to remind her that most of my childhood teachers were gone from this school, and that the neighbors had long moved away, that Uncle Herman had died many years ago, and that my father had left her. The nightmare of all those years had been pain enough. I wanted to see her smiling and know I had been the one to make her happy. For the first time in my life, I had brought a smile to her lips. Then after a while she paused thoughtfully, as if remembering something. I had the feeling her mind was going to wander. No, I shouted, startling her back to reality. Wait, Ma, there's something else, something I want you to have before I go. Go? You can't go away now. I have to go, Ma. I have things to do. But I'll write to you. And I'll send you money. But when will you come back? I don't know yet. But before I go, I want you to have this. A magazine? Not exactly. It's a scientific report I wrote. Very technical. Look, it's called the Algernon Gordon effect. Something I discovered, and it's named partly after me. I want you to keep a copy of the report so that you can show people that your son turned out to be more than a dummy after all. She took it and looked at it in awe. It's your name. I knew it would happen. I always said it would happen someday. I tried everything I could. You were too young to remember, but I tried. I that told them all that you'd go to college and become a professional man and make your mark in the world. They laughed, but I told them. She smiled at me through tears, and then a moment later she wasn't looking at me anymore. She picked up a rag and began to wash the woodwork around the kitchen floor, the kitchen door, humming more happily, I thought, as if in a dream. The dog started barking again. The front door opened and closed, and a voice called, Okay, Nappy. Okay, it's me. The dog was jumping excitedly against the bedroom door. I was furious at being trapped there. I didn't want to see Norma. We had nothing to say to each other, and I didn't want my visit spoiled. There was no back door. The only way would be to climb out the window into the backyard and go over the fence, but someone might mistake me for a burglar. As I heard her key in the door, I whispered to my mother, I don't know why, Norma's home. I touched her arm, but she didn't hear me. She was too busy humming to herself as she washed the woodwork. The door opened. Norma saw me and frowned. She didn't recognize me at first. It was dim. The lights hadn't been turned on. Putting down the shopping bag she was carrying, she switched on the light. Who are you? But before I could answer, her hand went over her mouth and she slumped back against the door. Charlie! She said it the same way my mother had, gasping. And she looked the way my mother used to look. Thin, sharp features, bird-like, pretty. Charlie! My God, what a shock! You might have gotten in touch and warned me. You should have called. I don't know what to say. She looked at my mother, sitting on the floor near the sink. Is she all right? You didn't shock her or anything. She came out of it for a while. We had a little talk. I'm glad. She doesn't remember much these days. It's old age, senility. Dr. Portman wants me to put her into a nursing home, but I can't do it. I can't stand to think of her in one of those institutions. She opened the bedroom door to let the dog out, and when he jumped and whined joyously, she picked him up and hugged him. I just can't do that to my own mother." Then she smiled at me uncertainly. "Well, what a surprise. I never dreamed. Let me look at you. I never would have recognized you. I'd have passed you by in the street. So different." She sighed. "I'm glad to see you, Charlie." "Are you? I didn't think you'd want to see me again." "Oh, Charlie." She took my hands in hers. "Don't say that. I'm glad to see you. I've been expecting you. I didn't know when, but I knew someday you'd come back, ever since I read that you had run away in Chicago." She pulled back to look up at me. "You don't know how long I've thought about you and wondered where you were and what you were doing, until that professor came here when was it? Last March? Just 7 months ago? I had no idea you were still alive. She told me you died in Warren. I believed it all these years. When they told me you were alive and they needed you for the experiment, I didn't know what to do. Professor Niemer? Is that his name? Wouldn't let me see you. He was afraid to upset you before the operation, but when I saw in the papers that it worked and you had become a genius, oh my, you don't know what it you don't know what it felt like to read about that. I told all the people in my office and the girls at my bridge club. I showed them your picture in the paper, and I told them you'd be coming back here to see us one day. And you have. You really have. You didn't forget us." She hugged me again. "Oh, Charlie, Charlie, it's so wonderful to find all of a sudden I've got a big brother. You have no idea. Sit down and let me make you something to eat. You've got to tell me all about it and what your plans are. I I don't know where to start asking questions. I must sound ridiculous, like a girl who has just found out her brother is a hero or a movie star or something." I was confused. I had not expected a greeting like this from Norma. It had never occurred to me that all these years alone with my mother might change her. And yet it was inevitable. She was no longer the spoiled brat of my memories. She had grown up and become warm and sympathetic and affectionate. We talked. Ironic to sit there with my sister, the two of us talking about my mother right there in the room with us, as if she wasn't there. Whenever Norma would refer to their life together, I'd look to see if Rose was listening, but she kept deep in her own world, as if she didn't understand our language, as if none of it concerned her anymore. She drifted around the kitchen like a ghost, picking things up, putting things away, without ever getting in the way. It was frightening. I watched Norma feed the dog. "So you finally got him. Nappy, short for Napoleon, isn't it?" She straightened up and frowned. "How did you know?" I explained about my memory, the time she had brought home her test paper, hoping to get the dog, and how Matt had forbidden it. As I told it, the frown became deeper. "I don't remember any of it. Oh, Charlie, was I so mean to you?" "There's one memory I'm curious about. I'm not really sure if it's a memory or a dream, or if I just made it all up. It was the last time we played together as friends. We were in the basement, and we were playing a game with the lampshade on our heads, pretending we were Chinese coolies, jumping up and down on an old air mattress. You were 7 or 8, I think, and I was about 13. And, as I recall, you bounced off the mattress and hit your head against the wall. It wasn't very hard, just a bump, but Mom and Dad came running down because you were screaming, and you said I was trying to kill you. She blamed Matt for not watching me, for leaving us alone together, and she beat me with a strap until I was nearly unconscious. Do you remember it? Did it really happen that way?" Norma was fascinated by my description of the memory, as if it awakened sleeping images. "It's all so vague. I thought that was my dream. I remember us wearing the lampshades and jumping up and down on the mattresses." She stared out the window. "I hated you because they fussed over you all the time. They never spanked you for not doing your homework right or for not bringing home the best marks. You skipped classes most of the time and played games, and I had to go to the hard classes in school. Oh, how I hated you. In school, the other children scribbled pictures on the blackboard, a boy with a dunce cap on his head, and they wrote Norma's brother under it. And they scribbled things on the sidewalk, in the schoolyard, moron sister, and dummy Gordon family. And then one day, when I wasn't invited to Emily Raskin's birthday party, I knew it was because of you. And when we were playing there in the basement with those lampshades on our heads, I had to get even." She started to cry. So I lied and said you hurt me. Oh, Charlie, what a fool I was. What a spoiled brat. I'm so ashamed. Don't blame yourself. It must have been hard to face the other kids. For me, this kitchen was my world, and that room there. The rest of it didn't matter as long as this was safe. You had to face the rest of the world. Why did they send you away, Charlie? Why couldn't you have stayed here and lived with us? I always wondered about that. Every time I asked her, she always said it was for your own good. In a way, she was right. She shook her head. She sent you away because of me, didn't she? Oh, Charlie, why did it have to be? Why did all of this happen to us? I didn't know what to tell her. I wish I could say that, like the house of Atreus or Cadmus, we were suffering for the sins of our forefathers or fulfilling an ancient Greek oracle, but I had no answers for her or for myself. It's past, I said. I'm glad I met you again. It makes it a little easier. She grabbed my arm suddenly. Charlie, you don't know what I've been through all these years with her. The apartment, the street, my job. It's all been a nightmare coming home each day, wondering if she's still here, if she's harmed herself, guilty for thinking about things like that. I stood up and let her rest against my shoulder, and she wept. Oh, Charlie, I'm glad you're back now. We needed someone. I'm so tired. I had dreamed of a time like this, but now that it was here, what good was it? I couldn't tell her what was going to happen to me, and yet could I accept her affection on false pretenses? Why kid myself? If I had still been the old, feeble-minded, dependent Charlie, she wouldn't have spoken to me the same way. So what right did I have to do to it now? My mask would soon be ripped away. Don't cry, Norma. Everything will work out all right. I heard myself speaking in reassuring platitudes. I'll try to take care of you both. I have a little money saved, and with what the foundation has been paying me, I'll be able to send you some money regularly. For a while, anyway. But you're not going away. You've got to stay with us now. I've got to do some traveling, some research, make a few speeches, but I'll try to come back to visit you. Take care of her. She's been through a lot. I'll help you for as long as I can. Charlie, no, don't go. She clung to me. I'm frightened. The role I had always wanted to play, the big brother. At that moment, I sensed that Rose, who had been sitting in the corner quietly, was staring at us. Something in her face had changed. Her eyes were wide, and she leaned forward on the edge of her seat. All I could think of was a hawk ready to swoop down. I pushed Norma away from me, but before I could say anything, Rose was on her feet. She had taken the kitchen knife from the table and was pointing at me. What are you doing to her? Get away from her. I told you what I'd do to you if I ever caught you touching your sister again. Dirty mind. You don't belong with normal people. We both jumped back, and for some insane reason, I felt guilty, as if I had been caught doing something wrong, and I knew Norma felt the same way. It was as if my mother's accusation had made it true, and we were doing something obscene. Norma screamed at her, Mother, put that knife down. Seeing Rose standing there with the knife brought back the picture of that night she had forced Matt to take me away. She was reliving that now. I couldn't speak or move. The nausea swept over me, the choking tension, the buzzing in my ears, my stomach knotting and stretching as if it wanted to tear itself out of my body. She had a knife, and Alice had a knife, and my father had a knife, and Dr. Strauss had a knife. Fortunately, Norma had the presence of mind to take it away from her, but she couldn't erase the fear in Rose's eyes as she screamed at me, Get him out of here! He's got no right to look at his sister with sex in his mind. Rose screamed and sank back into the chair, weeping. I didn't know what to say, and neither did Norma. We were both embarrassed. Now she knew why I had been sent away. I wondered if I had ever done anything to justify my mother's fear. There were no such memories, but how could I be sure there weren't horrible thoughts repressed behind the barriers of my tortured conscience? In the sealed-off passageways, beyond blind alleys that I would never see. Possibly, I will never know. Whatever the truth is, I must not hate Rose for protecting Norma. I must understand the way she saw it. Unless I forgive her, I will have nothing. Norma was trembling. Take it easy, I said. She doesn't know what she's doing. It wasn't me she was raving at. It was the old Charlie. She was afraid of what he might do to you. I can't blame her for wanting to protect you, but we don't have to think about it now because he's gone forever, isn't he? She wasn't listening. There was a dreamy expression on her face. I've just had one of those strange experiences where something happens and you have the feeling you know it's going to happen, as if it all took place before, the exact same way, and you watch it unfold again. A very common experience. She shook her head. Just now, when I saw her with that knife, it was like a dream I had a long time ago. What was the use of telling her she had undoubtedly been awake that night as a child and had seen the whole thing from her room, that it had been repressed and twisted until she imagined it as a fantasy? No reason for burdening her with that truth. She would have enough sadness with my mother in the days to come. I would gladly have taken the burden and the pain off her hands, but there was no sense in starting something I couldn't finish. I would have my own suffering to live with. There was no way to stop the sands of knowledge from slipping through the hourglass of my mind. I've got to go now, I said. Take care of yourself and of her. I squeezed her hand. As I went out, Napoleon barked at me. I held it in for as long as I could, but when I reached the street, it was impossible. It's hard to write it down, but people turned to look at me as I walked back to the car, crying like a child. I couldn't help myself, and I didn't care. As I walked, the ridiculous words drummed themselves into my head over and over again, rising to the rhythm of buzzing noise. 3 blind mice, 3 blind mice, see how they run, see how they run. They all run after the farmer's wife. She cut off their tails with a carving knife. Did you ever see such a sight in your life as 3 blind mice? I tried to shut it out of my ears, but I couldn't. And once, when I turned to look back at the house and the porch, I saw the face of a boy staring at me, his cheek pressed against the window pane.